Woo! Coach D, you look great. What's up, Mom? No, I can't. Coach D, can you hear me? Can't hear you. There we go.
Hey, there we go.
We're in the game now. What's up, baby?
Yeah, we always got these little things get all dialed in.
Yeah.
It is
What's up, Mom?
Vested Thursday. Miss Bacon.
What's up, Vested?
Hello. It's nice to see you on this Thursday. Hey, Jamar.
Absolutely. Yo.
We're going to inspire, create, and empower today. And we have a special guest that is going to get us into some stuff that I'm pretty sure most of our community is not aware of.
Hey, I'm not aware of, bro.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there. One word, and I'm going to say
Tee it up.
Mushroom.
Ooh.
There are so many different ideas surrounding and supporting just that single word. And the crazy part is that we don't really know much about them. Or do we? So
Coach D, slow it down one more time. Okay. Mushrooms can save the world. Okay, so we're talking about mushrooms today.
Yeah, man.
We're talking about mushrooms.
Okay.
Let's do it.
There's more to it than that. And I think that's what really inspired me to bring this guest on tonight, because he's the one that opened my eyes to all of this. So yes, we're talking about mushrooms, but we're going to have to talk about mycelium. And we're going to have to talk about how the wood wide web is the way that plants communicate with each other. And they do this through fungal networks. Now, when our guest, Brandon Pitcher, started talking to me about some of the connections that this fungal network is responsible for, it is so vast, man, that it blew my mind.
Wow.
So I will get to how our relationship evolved in the empowerment section, because it's pretty empowering. And I was extraordinarily moved to take action, and everybody on Vested will figure out how at the end when we tell you. But for now, Jamar, let's play a little video just to kind of whet everybody's palate a little bit for what they're about to get. And then we'll bring on my boy Brandon Pitcher once we come back.
Hey, man, let's tee it up. Let's tee it up. In 3, in 2, in 1.
There's so many things you can do with fungi, and this is what keeps us up at night. Fungi for food, medicine, textiles, fiber, packaging materials, even biofuel. Fungi just have this potential to unlock biological material that's a waste product in our civilization and convert it into something else. So that's what's exciting, and everyone's scampering onto this bandwagon to try to catch up. I started as a grower, and I was out collecting edible mushrooms. That would be all I was interested in, the edibility, the economic factor. You know, I can sell this mushroom and make money.
This one's definitely sellable. Smells really good.
It's just untapped completely.
See that one?
Oh, that's the best
And
one.
all in the meantime, I'm focused on this one mushroom in the woods while I'm passing thousands, and I've got my blinders on. Now, all I'm interested in is all those little brackets and fungi.
Whatever color.
I have a lot of species of fungi here in the lab, and there's 1.5 million species plus of fungi on the planet.
Effectiveness, do we need to concentrate it somehow? Can we store it? Kind of my plan. Our theory is that when you have an infection and you're either not sure what the bacteria is, or you know that that bacteria is drug resistant, so we don't have a really perfect treatment, that you could take that bacteria, inoculate the mushroom, so put it on the mushroom would then sweat out these metabolites, and those metabolites would basically be able to kill that bacteria. So it's like a personalized antibiotic production system for your infection. Knowing the problems we have with antimicrobial resistance, something like this that's coming out of a different perspective and saying, look, let's take advantage of what the natural world can already do, to me, that's just fascinating. I think it's unlimited what we could do with mushrooms once we know more about the different varieties that are out there and more about their biology in general.
Right now, Haiti has been completely deforested. And so part of the process of developing requires building materials. There is an urgency to go out and find new sustainable products, and I think this has a really big potential to be one of those. We're looking at compression strength, tensile strength, flame retardants, its ability to act as insulation. The fungi has so many properties that are healing properties, antibiotic properties. It's lightweight, it's a great source of protein. It will be able to filter all sorts of pathogens and chemicals out of our water system.
The amount of potential solutions that we have for fungi are tremendous.
Good girl. How about this one? It's her favorite.
You open one door, there's 10 doors. Then you open up that one and it's 100. And all these have not been explored yet. This is just the beginning.
We're not sure why the fungi bioluminesce. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is figure out why.
Wow.
So thanks National Geographic for that epic video.
Thank you.
I think Tech Team's going to put up a little banner here to look into it a little bit more. They've got some epic content, so we'd like to thank them for the videos that they're putting out there. And if you'd like to look into more of the stuff that they have, I highly recommend it. And this is not a shameless tag because we just pull it off of YouTube, and we just want to give everybody in the Vested community the opportunity to kind of follow up on it. But
Absolutely.
Jamar, everybody comes to me, and they've got the newest, quickest, newest, safest, awesomest thing, right? So somebody suggested one day through a bunch of connections that I look into the psilocybin idea of being able to open people's minds about the medicinal value of psychedelic mushrooms. And I was a little bit, I didn't really know. So I had a buddy who referred me a contact, and I had some questions, and he was like, look, man, that's just one mushroom. And let me just send you some information. You can actually start looking into mushrooms as a whole. And then once you kind of start to break it down, call me back and let's see where we're at. So this is the guest that I'm going to bring on tonight. His name is Brandon Pitcher. He's now a close friend of mine and a little more, which we'll talk about later. But let's bring him on, Jamal. I'll introduce him to the Vested community and you, and see what you guys think.
Brandon sounds like he's an expert on our topic tonight. So, man, who else can we have here? Yeah. Hey, he's a fun guy. There
he is.
I wish I could say Jamar. That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a new joke. Right. Okay, Vested community. This is my friend Brandon Pitcher. Jamar, this is my mushroom buddy. And let's okay, Brandon, tell everybody about yourself. Why mushrooms? What I mean, okay, hey.
Well, you know, I got to talk. I guess if I had to focus on the mushroom side of it, since I started talking, my background has always been in development work, a little bit of real estate, and I got really heavy and involved in what's, I guess the term be sustainable development, and then zero emissions, not zero waste, but zero emissions research and initiatives. And that took me to over 50 countries around the world. And I studied a lot about how people took biological material, biological waste, and created industrial scale products and useful products for humanity, and the basic needs for humanity to be met in a way that nature can.
Brandon,
yes.
I'm sorry. I do this all the time. I gotta
he's pulling you back, man. He's pulling you back.
It's a tough job because this is why you're on, so we can hear all this stuff. But we do this thing, we drop a banner, and everything you're saying is inspirational. But we gotta start from the beginning, and that's exactly what you're doing. So we can't skip over any piece. So Tech Team, let's help us out. We gotta. I'm inspired.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
All right. There's nothing official on that show. So we kind of, I mean, just to box ourselves in with a little structure, that's what we do. We drop the banners, and we're going to start with Inspire. And you kind of already started to scratch the surface. But let's get into the relationships early in your life, okay? With your family, with your business associations. At one point, you were inspired to move into the Mushroom Kingdom. So tell me where you were at, and then what inspired you to move away from it or expand upon it with mushrooms.
Well, this would be real easy. It would have been around September 8th or 9th, 2001, just a couple days before 9/11. I was in New York State, and I was working on, I was studying at the time. I had been traveling the world, meeting my heroes. Most of my heroes were in the environmental industry, people like Janine Benyus and Amory Lovins and Paul Hawkins. And I went to New York really to meet Jane Goodall. But at that time, there was a 5-day course being held by two men. One was Amory Lovins. Another one was a man named Gunter Pauli. And I spent I paid the extra money and stayed the extra days. And Gunter Pauli opened my mind to what I believed, sustainability really was, more than anything I had seen at the time in my life. And then a day later, 9/11 happened, or 2 days later, we're on our training, and we decided to stay through the training and go through it, which is, just more impetus that if you build a world that was based on zero waste and zero emissions, it would probably been a more equitable world to begin with, and you may not have had a lot of these challenges that we're dealing with. And so Gunter was open my eyes to everything in a way that I didn't understand. But the man who really taught me about zero waste and how to be more environmentally sustainable was my own father. My own father had started with building materials and how to deconstruct buildings and reuse them. So I always have to say that, and so that way I can let people know that it's been generational for us to understand that waste equals value. And so mushrooms were what Gunther always taught, was that, hey, we can go almost anywhere in the world and learn to grow mushrooms off of waste materials and feed a population to start with and solve their waste challenges at the same time. And so you're looking for systemic solutions to our challenges, and every time you look at mushrooms, just like your video, it shows that they're solving systemic challenges to survival on the planet for multiple species, not just our own. But without fungus, the human species does not exist.
Wow!
And so it leads us into some pretty cool stuff.
Well, you talk about systemic challenges. We are currently facing some systemic challenges. Mm-hmm. So what brought us together, this communication thing, this network. So you're working with sustainability with your father, but that you didn't stay in the family business. You expanded out and you met some mentors, but there's something about this fungus game that really pulled you in. Now tell me about what it felt like when you thought you knew you were going in one direction, but something grabbed you and yanked you in another. How did you manage that feeling and turn it into a driving purpose?
It's but I mean, that happens in my life every once in a while, and sometimes people pick on me because they think I'm changing directions, but I'm really just learning new data, to make better decisions on where I want to go if I'm doing my job right. And there has been times in my life where I've not done my job right, and I apologize to people for that. So, but that's not this conversation. So, but things like mushrooms have always brought me back. But things like mushrooms have always brought me back to doing my job right. And so that in doing the right thing as a person, and as a player in this planetary game. I look at old Buckminster Fuller's work that we're on spaceship Earth, and we're kind of all have a role to play on this, and we should pay more attention to that. So yeah, but anyway, back to the mushrooms and the fungus. And so what I learned, in ways where I got more, how it shifted my mindset into a different, career path, was after I started learning the science more and understanding the opportunities behind it. It was stupid of me not to try to, it didn't make any sense to me. To not, educate people about what was going on. And so I started with the education side. I gave 600 lectures or more around the world, MIT, Yale, United Nations universities, and all those things from what I learned from my studies around the world. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, in North America right now, there's no better time than to put mushrooms at the forefront. And so all the opportunities, as you saw in that National Geographic video, what you can do with mushrooms, from biofuels to textiles to, building materials, to health and therapeutic benefits to food. It's one of the most, if not the most important kingdom for our own survival. And so we should be, focusing all of our time and effort on that. We have a limited amount of time on Earth to solve these systemic challenges we're talking about. And I'm in a rare, I don't know if I'm lucky or burdened to know these things and be in a rare position to try to add some value to the transition period.
Wow.
Hopefully that we get there.
Man. Hey, Coach D, Brandon's passionate about what he's talking about, man. Like, yeah. Like like you said there, Brandon, you were talking about this is something that's generational for your family, right? Like this vibration and this frequency you're talking about. Hey, Coach D, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but can we talk about the beauty side of the mushroom as well?
I think that
please
kind of moves us into create, though, Jamar. That's what we're gonna do. I mean, are you ready? I'm ready. I'll create.
Let's do it.
Mushrooms great. Are they?
Yeah. Let's create some beauty, man.
All right, Brandon. So when we first met, I had an interest in an idea that somebody had put me onto. And once we had our conversation, you really broadened my understanding of stuff that I really had no idea that I didn't even know. So once I dove into some Googling and some YouTubing, I don't even have words to explain how little I was aware of when it came to fungus and how it works and how amazing it is and how many different kinds there are. So this next video that we're going to show is just kind of a visual representation of a place where your mind can go, just where your mind can go, so that we can move into the create section of how this became a career and where you're going with it. So let's drop the video and then ask some questions.
Yeah, man, come on. Let's roll it. Beauty, baby. Man, hey, we were in the club right there, Coach G.
Yeah, man. Mushroom on and a dance at the same time, which is lighting.
Man,
that video was by Beautiful World, and we need to throw their page up because there are so many incredible resources, and it's just a really good visual page where you can go and get a lot of good information on some stuff you probably had no idea about. So as we're starting to create and move into this idea that is so much bigger than I think most people are aware of, where would you try to suggest people start? Or how about this? Where did you start with, once you hit a groove and knew that mushrooms were your thing, how did you expand yourself into that space?
Well, I usually always start with reading as much about things as I could. And back when I got into mushrooms, you know, the internet was still young, and so was books. And in America, everybody knows a man named Paul Stamets. His work, of course, was very influential. And his books, you know, I advise everybody to take a look at. And his websites and his work he's doing currently is some of the best in the world. But even before then, there were some scientists in Asia and another American and a European, but that had done some great science work that I read a lot about. And one of them was Shu-Ting Chang, S.T. Chang. And another one was, I believe, named Philip Miles. And so those two were books I read, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And my mentor, Gunther Pauli, had, you know, exposed me to mushroom farms around the world. So I got to visit several mushroom operations, you know, and see how they did everything from taking anything from like water hyacinth from a river into a substrate for oyster mushroom production, or coffee waste in Colombia as a substrate for, you know, shiitake production. You know, so I got to learn a lot about these things at a young age, and as I was studying a bigger picture of zero emissions, that was one piece of it, and it's something that I've always clung to. And I started investing and looking at the commercial side of mushrooms through a network of friends of mine in late 2000s and then mid 2010s, and worked on some projects there. And that's when I started learning about the commercial applications of mushrooms in the United States. And then that's a totally different animal than learning about, you know, how to grow mushrooms in a tribal village, and teaching people how to sustain themselves through mushroom production and waste material in their own communities, to an actual commercial operation that could compete in this you know, world we live in today. Is still very challenging and very difficult, and that's where the industry is at today. Is we need the infrastructure and scale, and that's where creativity, you know, we get to create this whole industry, you know, right now across the nation. Not so much in Asia and other places. They've got some pretty large mushroom operations already. I mean, they've got thousands of years of history of reverence for the mushroom, unlike here in the U.S., and where we've almost had a fear of the mushroom more than a love of it and a reverence. And so we've looked at other things for our protein and sources of food and sources of health and nutrition. But that's changing now. Now mushrooms are the fastest growing, you know, specialty food crop in the world, and this, you know, mushroom tacos.
So, man, as we start to familiarize ourselves with all this new stuff, I mean, I've had the ability to kind of like go down the rabbit hole and kind of do some research and watch some videos and really wrap my head around this idea of how much this network can offer. What do you think all this stuff, man? I mean, where are you coming? Jamar, I know you're in a business setting, you're in a fitness setting. Like, come at Brandon real quick with a create idea. I don't know, like kind of like how I was when you're shell shocked. Like, what do you got going on in your head right now when you're shocked with all this information, Jamar?
Right. Well, you think about it, Brandon. You know, Brandon, you're sharing some light right now on information that is very new to me and probably new to a lot of people who are in our community. So, question for you though, Brandon, is where would someone? Two questions. First of all, why would someone want to learn more about, you know, what we're talking about here, the power of the mushroom, the shroom? because what the world thinks when they think about mushrooms is on a different side of the spectrum than on the side that it actually can bring beautifulness and amazingness to life in many different aspects. So question, where would someone start the basics to learn about it? And number two, why would someone want to, let me reverse it. Why would someone want to learn? And then what is the basic step for them to learn about what we're talking about here?
Well, why? I mean, I could go through a list of reasons why, but I would say right now my main reasons would be sustainability, but in the bigger picture of the word, not the corporate, greenwashed view of the word, and understanding its role and our role on planet Earth and our survival on planet Earth, which is a little bit bigger than just business and capitalism and making money and all that stuff, right? And so I think that it starts from the purpose and understanding that, without all these fungal species, there is really no survival for animals, no reason for animals. And we're very close, at least related, by the way, genetically. And functionally, we both breathe oxygen, and exhale carbon dioxide and that kind of stuff. So, but the why to me is very much a deeper purpose in building industries and building a planet that works for humanity for the long term. All right. The how would be going back and probably looking at, and now Paul Stamey, he's got great YouTube videos, and great learning stuff on there now. There's more. What you can see now is very similar to the cannabis industry. And it's sad that mushrooms were legal, not just psilocybin, but it's taking the fact that recreational psilocybin is becoming legal to really drive investment and interest in mushrooms bigger than it's ever been. But that's fine, whatever it takes. It's the same thing I said with cannabis and hemp. So if marijuana is what it takes to become legal, but that's what one day we're going to have a hemp industrial system and infrastructure in place because of that. So okay, that's fine. It's sad and it's the wrong way of doing things, but it's the historical path humanity has taken. So it looks like it's the same trend that's going to happen here. But so in the United States, especially, Asia is different, right? And we're talking more about the Western world that's going to start adopting mushrooms at a very rapid pace. And the infrastructure is necessary to support that, but it's coming, it's not just, again, the psilocybin, but that's what seems to be awakening people's interest in investing in looking at mushrooms. But that's going to open people's minds to, just like as Damon said, once you start looking at it, all this opportunity, all this potential, and all this network that's going on out there. And then you got to figure out what part do you want to play, especially if you make an investment, you want to be a company, you need to figure out your role and specialization within, or you kind of get lost at the big picture of all these opportunities that are out there.
Wow, man. Hey, Coach D, my daughter knows I've never been a fan of having a mushroom on a pizza, but I might be open to it right now, man.
but I'll go to what mushrooms have you had on your pizza, right?
There's so many. Well, listen, he just did it for me, Jamar. We got to do it. I got to go with Empower. I got it.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Bring the E. Bring the E.
Okay, so I'm going to try to sound a little mushroom smart here because I've done a little research and I know just enough stuff to be dangerous. Okay, so what I found is that there are many different things that mushrooms do, but one of the things that they do that's really amazing is that they break down dead things. So when a tree falls over, it'll break that down to turn it into usable nutrients. And they have this relationship through this thing called the mycelial network. So everybody's heard of mushrooms, but that's the fruiting body. What people don't understand is the reason we called this episode the Wood Wide Web is because trees communicate with each other through this mycelial network. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on today, Brandon, was because it's pretty incredible as this old mentality that we've been using or moving forward with needs to be broken down and redistributed. And then once that happens, we need to kind of use this communication network to be able to create something new and move forward. So my question to you is, with all of your knowledge about how mushrooms work and communicate with each other, isn't it a little coincidental that right around the time now is the best time to get involved, both business-wise, mentally, and even spiritually? And could you explain why?
Good question, D.
No, I don't. I'm not a prophet or predictor of, the universe and how things work and why the timing is working now, and why I'm alive during that time either. Right? I don't know, but we are, and we do know these things, and there are a network of people who do have access to these skills and talents and abilities. It's not big, but it's growing bigger and bigger every day. And I would like to see it be done correctly in a different way than some other industries got started, but that's we'll see.
Brandon, real
yeah.
quick, on this show, we bring special people on like yourself, and I know it's hard for people that get knocked down and dust themselves off, and get knocked down and dust themselves off, and get knocked down and dust themselves off, and finally find a rhythm to be able to look at it and be like, have this smile on their face about, yeah, everything's great and this and that. But from a vulnerability perspective, I'd like you to talk a little bit about how difficult this has been. And the reason I brought this question up about the timing is because you didn't say a single word of the struggle that you went through. We're talking about over a decade. You've been involved in a lot of projects involving mushrooms, and they haven't panned out. So how did you find the ability to stay empowered, man, to get to this point?
Again, it goes back to your, Jamar's questions about the why and the how, right? I think it goes back to the why, the purpose. So I think if you start with it from that, failure doesn't get in your way, right? As long as you learn from it. And I have been known to spread myself too thin on multiple projects, but that's what people say, at least. But I don't, think that's the reason why everything doesn't always work out. But I with mushrooms, when we go in at it, and I mean, the real reason of the biggest problems that came about, I mean, I'll just be honest with you with the big project, just tell everybody, I guess, So the main big one that we invested in commercially, we bought a very large, what's called autoclave, and it was 8 feet in diameter by 20 feet long. It was designed for, very mass production of substrate production. And so that's what we were working on. And we got that set up, and we got the investments, and we got it going, and we got, we had the investment to move to the next level and all that stuff. But by the time that the autoclave got delivered, and all this stuff is going on, the farm itself throws a little party, and it does have psilocybin at the party, and there's a problem, and that kind of throws that project under the bus, you'd say. So and then it's really, I don't blame anybody for that. I just tell you the realities of it, and so even though it was a mushroom project, mushrooms took it down too. And so but you do have those challenges going through. I mean, we raised significant capital, we invest, and then projects go down. We've invested in other projects, and they get started. I've given many lectures, and so not just investing in projects, but I've seen over the last decade probably 30 or 40 mushroom companies get started across the nation. And you started the podcast with Fun Guys, and so one of the groups that I gave a lecture, I think in Louisville, Kentucky, and a couple weeks later I get an email, and they created a company called 5 Fun Guys. And so there were 5 teachers, right, that worked together, and they grew mushrooms. They did well for a little while. They actually took the waste from Brown Forman, which is one of the largest producers of like whiskey, I think like Jack Daniels and Southern Comfort, and took some of their distillery waste and grew mushrooms off of it, and fed those mushrooms back to the CEO and the top executives of Brown Forman. So they had some success, and then, but I don't, I wasn't involved in the business, so I don't know why things didn't continue. But I learned a lot, from seeing 30 or 40 of those companies start up over the years. We invested in a couple, but seeing the struggles. I mean, one was a really my probably favorite project that didn't survive was in Minnesota, and at the time it was the most impoverished or poorest school in the nation, but that neighborhood spoke more languages than any other neighborhood in the country.
Wow.
You know, so it kind of shows you our priorities in this country. You know, so the most diverse neighborhood was the poorest neighborhood. You know, there's something wrong with that. You know, there's just that picture in my head. So we were working with that school, and we worked with 13-year-old students and had them start to grow mushrooms in the classroom. So we had them collect waste materials from the community for a couple of weeks, and then we have them process it in the classroom. We show them how to sterilize it, you know, set it up, and then in this case we put them in aquariums, the substrate, so they can see the mycelium grow and they can see the mushrooms grow, and those type of things in the classroom. And then you can teach them, how to harvest the mushrooms, and then take those mushrooms to like a farmer's market or do whatever. They could sell them, take them to a restaurant. So if you have a good setup with a good supply chain, your students can grow them in your classroom, learning all the biology and all the math and all the science. But then you can let them take those mushrooms home with them so they can make a little extra few dollars, because it's a very struggling community. But you also teach them how to be entrepreneurs. That's part of the job training. So now you had 13-year-old girls learning how to go out and sell mushrooms to the community, and so those things were successful. But the school itself went bankrupt. And so the program and it didn't continue. But I think those things can do it. Somebody just texted me something. Baker.
Yeah, she said, do mushrooms die or lose their magical powers once they're picked? Good question.
Well,
Brandon, that's my mom, Brandon. That's my mom.
That's Mama Baker, baby.
Mom?
Yes, my mom.
Baker.
Well, thank you, Mother. I don't know how to answer that question specifically, unless I don't know what she means by their magical powers.
Benefits?
No, not necessarily. No, but so it's going to depend on species, depending on when you harvest them, and what you've done to them. There's a lot of factors in there, but not necessarily for the human benefits. No, we need them. We're going to have to harvest them to use them, right? So, if you want to raise sheep to benefit you, at some point you're going to have to cut it down and eat it or take it, right? You're not going to eat the mushroom. You're going to process and do some things, right? But we're going to have to. Lion's mane, if we don't consume it, it's not magical for us. It's got its magical benefits when it comes to what it does for nature, and its deconstruction, of materials, and the reuse of nutrients and all these things, and how to keep the energy, nutrient, and matter flowing on the universe through the planet. I would say the universe, because I would have almost assumed that without fungus and algae, there's probably not much life anywhere else, that we know of. There may be some other things, but if we were to go to, go to Mars or something, you're not gonna colonize Mars without mushrooms and algae and certain species and kingdoms, just because that's how Earth was colonized. You ain't gonna start with cows and corn.
Question for you, Brandon. You're talking about the universe. Do you feel that there's spiritual power, there's spiritual components that are tied to mushrooms?
Well, yes. When you do my travels, when I say I've been to 50 countries, I've spent a lot of time within some indigenous cultures too, and then they take that world very, very serious, and I would agree, but I'm not a spiritual person per se, right? So I don't have a whole lot of in me just to look that way or look at those solutions, but the people I spend a lot of time with, and when I've done these type of experiences have really believed in it pretty heavily, and so I would say yes, and I also say that the things that we think we know, we really don't know that much, right? We're talking about mushrooms. I'd tell everybody, anybody that thinks they know about mushrooms, I'd ask them, how many sexes are there in the fungal kingdom?
Wow, how many?
We don't know. We know as we go male, female, and that's about all we know. Then we go asexual, and then we're done. They may have more than 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sexes. We don't know. So we so it's such a mystery still. which is another part of the excitement and the why, the mystery. And if we human being, I think, is an explorer by nature. I don't think we're happy without being somewhat exploratory, and this is one of the best exploratory things. So how can you tell if a mushroom is poisonous? Well, I mean, there's the, I would tell you, there's a lot of books and a lot of like apps and stuff to really pay attention to now compared to where they used to be. There are different ways of looking at the gills and looking at the way the spore production is done. But there's also some there's also cases where mushrooms they mimic other mushrooms, you could say, and they can be poisonous. And those you can't always look at those telltale signs. And so I don't know, I don't always tell people just look at those things. I say, do some research. Get a guide. There's always good guides, out there. But even with those guides, there are still some mushrooms that can mimic and be poisonous. So you got to be very careful.
Wow.
What's up, Brian?
What's up, Brian? What's up, Burdick? Hey, question. I got a question, Coach D, real quick, because Brandon, what you're talking about here, man, you're talking about something that I would say is an uncommon topic to most people, a universal world of information that most people are not privy or even tuned into. So I appreciate you being here and educating us on the topic, the subject matter. But I want to hit this again because, in life, when you're going down different paths towards things that you believe in, your friends, your families, your loved ones may not always be supportive of your vision or supportive of your goals or what you believe in or why you're doing what you're doing. So once again, man, how have you been able to overcome the naysayers, the doubters, the dream stillers on your journey, your trajectory to, basically being amazing in this industry here?
I think you gotta have, I would like to say persistence, but there might be a little bit of narcissism or egotism or something in there too, to believe, I am smart enough, I am good enough, I do know this, I do believe in it enough, and I know it needs to be achieved, and I know we have a very short amount of time to do it, and so we have to do something, and it's, and I think I read that Steve Jobs quote somewhere that, at some point you got to realize that the world was created by people just like you. They're no smarter than you and that kind of stuff. And so, somebody's got to do it, right? And then I met my mentor, Gunther, and he was like, man, nobody pointed me this, right? Nobody tells you that, hey, you should do this. Isn't a job choice. This isn't really a career choice. When I started, there was no career in this industry when I started. That at least the work I'm doing now, there was no career with the path for this now. We're creating it as we go, so that's kind of unique. So that exploratory, thing. And then, my parents, always thought I'd be crazy, but I do have to say my dad always instilled in me, you have to produce something, son, or you're full of shit.
Hey, hold up. This is perfect. Hey, Jamar, you know what I did when I met Brandon?
Come on, tell me.
I truly believe in what he just said. I bought a mushroom farm. Rebecca and I invested in a mushroom farm, put down a down payment, and we hired Brandon as our consultant. So we so believe in what he's talking about, and we so believe in him that we hired Blue Circle to be our consultant on this mushroom project, and we're now partners. Hey, so Brandon, tell us a little bit about the business side of Blue Circle and what it is that you do currently as a consultant and as a mushroom entrepreneur.
Well, I've been a consultant on mushrooms off and on for, like I said, about 15, 20 years. I've seen mushroom farms in over 20 countries, and in operation. And I've met a lot of mushroom farmers around the world, more so than in the United States. But most of my business in the last 4 or 5 years has been in the hemp industry. We focus pretty heavily in hemp and creating hemp products, setting up a few hemp farms, and some of them went really well, and some of them didn't go so well. The industry was booming, and then it wasn't booming. So it changes. So we see this industry almost very, very similar in regards, except I don't see it taking. I don't see everybody and their brother creating a mushroom brand like they did a CBD brand. CBD was much easier to get into. The barriers to the market for mushrooms should be more difficult, especially in the production side of it.
Wow. Question for you, Brandon. Take us in deep real quick. What is the symbolism and the meaning of blue circle? How did that come about?
So it comes from basically two economic terms. One is the blue economy, which has two meanings. One is basically the economy around the ocean, and the other one is going beyond the green economy. So I'm more focused on going beyond the green economy of true zero emissions and zero waste from what my mentor Gunter Collins had laid out in his visions. And then the circle stands for circular economy. And so we really wanted to focus on that. So when I really got into hemp, I was consulting for like the hemp car, Bruce Dietzen, he's got a hemp car. I consulted with a company called Just Biofiber doing hemp blocks. These companies are still in existence today. And I hemp plastic companies, that are still in operation. So this was 5 years ago, and that's really what got me into hemp. And then it kind of transitioned into, of course, CBD and having to chase money and appeasing investors and all that, bullshit that comes along with the business. But you learn that, and then you take those skills and hopefully, use those again to invest in the industries that you're supporting and you want to. And mushrooms is something that, like you said, I'm passionate about. I believe in, and I know that now is the time if ever to really build the infrastructure across the nation. So that's my focus right now is working with investors and people like Damien and his team in Washington, and a few others that we have set up around the nation right now to build the infrastructure to be ready to go, here in the next year or two to really scale up.
Hey, Jamar, do you hear how he said helping Damien with his project?
Yeah, I heard it,
because
man.
Here's the one that we've been leading up to. He has inspired us to create sustainability of our own. So we bought ourselves a farm and hired him. So
right, come on.
He's a part of our sustainability network. And just like the mycelium works, we found a way to be able to connect his efforts with the efforts that Rebecca and I have been working on through the medical approach towards finding wellness through supplementation and exposing people to knowledge and create awareness. So, Brandon, man, I'm so excited that we met. I'm so grateful that you were able to share so much time and knowledge with us tonight. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on our show. Jamar, I love you. Tech team, I love you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, everybody, ProSpore is the name of the company that we have started, and we're working with Brandon to do all mushroom things. We're starting with our family out in Washington. Jake, Jordan, and Troy have been running our farm, and we are going to move up there soon to be able to pursue this with Brandon and to be a part of this massive network and to change things, man, to be a part of it all. So again, brother, thank you. My guy Jamar is going to wrap us up and ask you a question.
Hey, I got a question before the question. Brandon, it's on my heart to ask you right now. I actually got two questions for you. Number one, what is one thing that comes to your mind that you're grateful for right now?
Still being here after all these years and learning, still being able to learn from my mistakes and to share that with other people.
That's beautiful, man. And what is the one thing that you want the viewer, the vested community, what is one thing that you want them to take away from the message today? Well,
go study the 5 kingdoms of nature, and don't argue with me over the 5 kingdoms scientifically. There's more or less, but the fungus, algae, bacteria, plants, animals, how they interact to create sustainability on Earth and solve problems every day over billions of years of evolution. And we're such a young species, and our arrogance is helping destroy our ability to find the right solutions to solve good problems to create a better life for all existence on Earth, not just people.
Bam. Mic drop. Mic drop right. That was a mic drop, Brandon. That was a mic drop right there. Wow. Hey, I just want to say thank you, brother. Thank you for educating me. Thank you for educating our community. And thank you for being passionate about what you believe in that more people should know about. But what I appreciate the most, Brandon, everything you talked about, it's not about you. It's about the greater good, the higher law, doing more, not just for more people, but for the planet. So I appreciate that, man. Here at Vested, we're always connecting with people who are shining light in the world in some capacity. And brother, you are shining light And I want to encourage you to keep going, man. Invested community, you can see Brandon's vested. He's vested in his belief. He's vested in his journey. He's vested in his process. He's vested in what he's doing. And it doesn't matter what you want to do right now, vested community. The question is, are you vested?